James Matthews, the professor, wasn't easily impressed. For 25 years, he worked as a mathematician at Cambridge University, where his life revolved around numbers, patterns, and logical thinking. Since he was 16, he had been an agnostic, firmly believing that science could explain everything in the universe without needing supernatural forces. At one point, he told Science Today, "I never trusted religious texts. To me, they were just old ways of explaining the world before real science came along. Science has replaced religion as a better way to understand the world." Growing up in a science-focused family, his mother was a molecular biology researcher and his father taught physics. Matthews learned early that science had all the answers. In school, he would argue with his religious teachers, demanding proof for their claims about God and miracles. He once recalled with a smirk, "I remember being 12 and asking my teacher to prove God exists. She told me, 'Some things just require faith.' That answer never sat well with me." But everything he believed was about to change when a Muslim student in his class asked him a simple question that would shake his worldview. It was a normal afternoon in his advanced math class at Cambridge. While teaching probability theory, a student named Zacharia raised his hand. "Professor, can I ask a question that's a bit off topic?" Zacharia asked politely. Matthews nodded, always up for a good intellectual challenge. "What if you found a mathematical pattern in an ancient text, one that couldn't have been created by humans 1,400 years ago? Would that make you question your beliefs?" Zacharia asked calmly. Matthews smiled slightly, brushing it off. "Sure," he said, adjusting his glasses. "But those kinds of patterns don't exist. If you look hard enough, you'll find coincidences in any book. Our brains are wired to see patterns, even when they're not there." "What about the Quran, Professor? Have you ever studied it mathematically?" Zacharia pressed. "No," Matthews replied. "But it's probably just random patterns, like any other ancient text. Probability can explain it." Zacharia smiled. "Professor, you might want to look into it. Isn't it scientific to test an idea before dismissing it?" The challenge sparked something in Matthews. As a scientist, he believed in testing theories, not just assuming they were wrong. He decided to study the Quran to prove it wasn't special. He was sure he'd find random patterns, just like in any other book. But what he discovered would shock him. He took a careful, step-by-step approach. He used computer programs to study the Quran in Arabic. His goal was to find patterns in numbers, count words, letters, and sentences. With the help of Dr. Sarah Thompson, a computational linguistics expert, they created a program to do this. But the results were shocking. The patterns they found were too perfect to be random. Matthews thought there was a mistake in the program. He said, "I thought we had a bug." The results were too organized and flawless. Statistically, it didn't make sense. When they checked the program, it was working perfectly. Matthews and Thompson began analyzing the data. They found something amazing. The number 19 kept appearing in the Quran's structure in ways that seemed impossible. The secret code of the Quran, a mathematical miracle? The first sentence of the Quran, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, has exactly 19 Arabic letters. This sentence appears at the start of 113 out of 114 chapters. The word Allah appears 2,698 times in the Quran, divisible by 19. 2,698 divided by 19 equals 142. The word Rahman, compassionate, appears 57 times, divisible by 19. 57 divided by 19 equals 3. The word Rahim, merciful, appears 114 times, divisible by 19. 114 divided by 19 equals 6. Between the first and last mention of Allah, there are 19,142 words. Dr. Thompson, a skeptical researcher, decided to test these findings. She created her own program and found the same patterns, and even more. She said, "I've studied texts from all major cultures. The Quran's mathematical structure is unique. There's nothing like it." Matthews dug deeper. He calculated the odds of these patterns happening by chance. He said, "The probability is less than 1 in a trillion. It's like flipping a coin and getting heads 50 times in a row. It's nearly impossible." He also discovered the Quran has 114 chapters, divisible by 19. 114 divided by 19 equals 6. The total number of verses is 6,236. When you add the chapter numbers, 1 to 114, the total is 6,350, which is divisible by 19. 6,350 divided by 19 equals 334. The first chapter, Al-Fatiha, has 7 verses. The numerical values of the first word in each verse add up to a number divisible by 19. The Quran mentions the number 19 only once, in chapter 74, verse 30. If you add the chapter number, 74, and the verse number, 30, you get 104. Adding 19 to that gives 123, which is divisible by 19. 123 divided by 19. 19 equals 6.47. When Matthews shared his findings, people reacted differently. Some co-workers were skeptical, while others were amazed. Famous atheist Richard Dawkins argued, "If you search hard enough, you'll find patterns in anything." But Matthews disagreed. "This isn't random," he said. "The system is organized. None of the ancient books I tested, like the Bible or the Iliad, had this level of mathematical consistency." Statistician Dr. Emma Chen raised a question. Could this be selection bias? Are you only focusing on patterns that support your theory? To address this, Matthews used a double-blind method. His team analyzed texts without knowing which was which. Surprisingly, these patterns only appeared in the Quran. For months, Matthews struggled with his discovery. As a scientist, he trusted evidence, and the evidence was pointing to something extraordinary. "I couldn't sleep," he admitted. "What does it mean if the Quran's structure is beyond human understanding? Does it prove God exists?" The revelation shook him. To clear his mind, he took a break and traveled to the Scottish Highlands. There, surrounded by nature, he began reading the Quran, not to solve math problems, but to understand its message. "I was amazed," he said. "The Quran constantly encourages people to think, explore, and learn. I didn't expect that from a religious book." One verse stood out to him. "We will show them our signs in the universe and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth." Quran 41:53. Matthews reflected, "As a scientist, I've always looked for evidence in nature. But here was a text telling me to do the same, while suggesting these signs point to something greater than the physical world." Matthews kept studying after he returned to Cambridge, but he looked at things differently. He tried to find links between nature and the math patterns in the Quran. He said, "What's amazing is, the Quran was revealed over 23 years. How could someone plan such a complex math structure without modern tools?" Matthews found that the patterns in the Quran couldn't have been understood in the 7th century. The number system we use today, based on 10, wasn't used in Arabia back then, he explained. The concept of zero, which is key to modern math, didn't exist yet. How could someone create such a detailed math structure without these tools? He asked. Even more surprising, Muhammad, who brought the Quran, couldn't read or write. "We needed powerful computers and advanced algorithms to find these patterns," Matthews said. It's hard to believe anyone in the 7th century could design this without today's technology. After a lecture, his colleague, Dr. Lawrence Peterson, challenged him. James, are you really giving up decades of logic for some numbers in an old book? Matthews replied, not just numbers, Lawrence. What we know now can't explain these patterns. Isn't science about exploring the unknown? Peterson asked, are you saying this is proof of something supernatural? Matthews answered, I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm following the evidence. We shouldn't ignore data that challenges what we think we know. Matthews's change didn't happen overnight. He spent weeks deeply studying the Quran, its teachings, and its math. I found that the Quran constantly encourages people to think, question, and reflect, values I've always lived by as a scientist. It even includes over 800 verses urging readers to use their minds and seek knowledge. I was also amazed to find verses describing natural processes like the layers of the atmosphere, the expanding universe, and how babies grow in the womb. How could a book from the 7th century know things we only discovered recently? I wondered. This made the Quran even more fascinating to me. As I studied, I started connecting with the Muslim community. I talked to scholars, attended events at Islamic centers, and even began learning Arabic to understand the Quran better. I met Muslim scientists and thinkers who, like me, valued logic and evidence, I said. They showed me that in Islam, faith and science don't clash. They both lead to the truth. In the end, the evidence was too strong to ignore. The Quran's mathematical precision and its message convinced me of something I never expected. As a mathematician, I've spent my life using numbers to find the truth, I explained. I had to admit that the Quran couldn't have been written by humans 1,400 years ago. Its structure is too perfect. On March 19th, I recited the Shahada and became a Muslim, surprising many in the academic world. Today, I stand before you not just as a mathematician, but as someone who found truth through my work, I said at a conference. The same knowledge I once used to question God has now brought me to Him. The reaction from my colleagues was mixed. Some supported my decision, while others were critical. Dr. Jennifer Wilder, head of the physics department, said, James was one of our brightest minds. It's a loss for reason to see him turn to faith. However, famous brain expert Dr. Michael Thompson saw things differently. He believes science might never have all the answers. Matthews took the evidence seriously. Isn't that what science is all about? James Matthews calmly responded to the criticism. I get why people doubt this. I would have laughed too if I heard this story 2 years ago. But I ask everyone to look at the data. As scientists, we should let the data guide us, not our biases. Matthews started writing a book called The Mathematical Miracle: How Numbers Led an Atheist to God. He also created a new course at his university about the connection between ancient texts and math. The course became a hit, attracting both believers and non-believers. Matthews said, I'm not asking students to agree with me. I just want them to study the data with a clear method and an open mind. His story sparked global debate. Dr. Elizabeth Chen from MIT said, Matthews' findings are fascinating. Scientists should stay open to all possibilities, even if they challenge our beliefs. But critics like Dr. Robert Hines from Stanford weren't convinced. You can find patterns in anything if you look hard enough. That doesn't mean they're divine. Matthews handled the criticism well. I invite skeptics to check my methods and do more research. Science grows through questions and challenges. I don't want people to agree with me. I just want them to explore this with an open mind. Today, Matthews still teaches math at Cambridge, but he also travels the world, sharing his findings about the mathematical patterns in the Quran at top universities. He says, numbers don't lie. And, for those who truly listen, the numbers in the Quran share a powerful message. Matthews went from being an atheist to finding faith, showing how honest curiosity can lead to amazing discoveries. He didn't just see numbers in the Quran, he found a whole new way to look at the universe. It's a reminder that science doesn't have all the answers, he says. Now, Matthews works to connect science and spirituality. He believes they don't have to clash. They both aim to find the truth. Truth always leads to the same source, he explains. If you're curious about the science of the Quran, hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you think and what topics you'd like us to explore next.